We've been talking about how to analyze initial public offerings, which when done right will allow you to identify the instant winners and avoid the dogs that become instant losers. I've already gone over the anatomy of the type of underpriced IPO designed to pull you back into the game when the market's been lousy, as well as my 3 screening criteria for looking at an IPO's pedigree: vet the executives, the investors, and the brokerage that's underwriting the deal. And now at last, we've reached the final step: how to analyze the actual company that's coming public, which I've told you is probably the least important thing. Here you have to assess what the company makes. You have to ask if it's profitable. And most important, if you're thinking about hanging on to the stock after the deal, you need to know how big its end markets are. You need to know what it sells into and how large it can ultimately be. This isn't all that different from analyzing any other stock, except you have less information to go on, most of it coming from the prospectus, not big analyst reports that haven't been written yet. Figure out what the company does can be pretty easy if you got a brand or some consumer products business, like take Under Armour or take Crocs. But it can be more difficult to figure out what the darn company makes if it involves a sophisticated product, especially with these tech companies like those connected with broadband optimization or semiconductor miniaturization, or my favorite hard stumper, wide area network computing. Now, if the company that's coming public makes a consumer product, first ask yourself if it's a product you like. That does matter. It's simple, it does matter. This isn't the only question, but it does. It does. I take this one. Take the IPO of Heelys. That made shoes with wheels on them. A fad that, as a parent, I absolutely despise. That's all I need, my kid getting hurt with one of these things. I predicted it would jump when it came public, but that you'd have to get out quickly because the craze would soon pass. Sure enough, Heelys priced at 22, popped open at the 30s, and then began a long decline that took it as low as $1 and change a few years later. On the other hand, when the company has a good product, when it's already profitable, and many IPOs aren't, and has solid financials, then you can catch both the gains from the initial first day prop and from an extended run afterwards. That's nirvana. That's what happened with the Under Armour IPO, a truly mouth-watering deal where I knew the steak at last matched the sizzle. On the first day, it popped from 12 to 25. But I urge people to hang on, very rare for me. After taking some profits, because even at that higher price, you take a little off, Under Armour was being valued at the same as Nike, even though it had a much higher growth rate. That shouldn't happen. That's a classic example of the stock market mispricing that worked to your advantage. Happens all the time. We try to spot them every night on Mad Money. But after a 2-year run that took the stock into the low 60s 5 times, you had to sell Under Armour. Because of the other thing I told you to watch out for: the size of the company's addressable market. Under Armour came public with the hopes that it could challenge Nike for dominance in the athletic clothing market. And it very quickly took major market share and began to trade at a premium to Nike. You saw it at all the sporting events, right? They're all wearing the Under Armour. But then the Under Armour ran out of super fast growth in clothing. So what it decided to do, it decided to expand in footwear, challenging Nike on its home turf. Big mistake. Told you to sell it. Once in a while, you get what I call a thrice-blessed IPO and getting back to even, a profitable entity with lots of room to run, with a big addressable market and a great brokerage house sponsoring it. How about this one? Lululemon Athletica. That's a perfect example. A yoga-based apparel company that Goldman Sachs brought public at 18 in 2007. The stock quickly tripled. We loved it here on Mad Money. But it, too, eventually ran out of room to expand, and then it became absurdly overvalued. And then you had to sell it. That's okay. Remember, we don't do that blue chip buy and forget. We keep doing the work. In all of these cases, the trick is to recognize the size of the market, the power of the competitors, and try to figure out how the company that's coming public is valued versus similar players. Deals like Under Armour or Lululemon, which are priced at significant discount to their peers, when you factored in their growth rates, they tend to be the good ones. Here's the bottom line on this. To analyze an IPO, including the abstruse technology companies, you got to look at the addressable market. You got to look at the competitors, the historic growth rate of the company versus the growth rate of the market itself. See whether the company is profitable. Make sure the broker's pedigree, and then you'll know whether it is worth it to put in or hold the deal.